You have lovely children.
Oh, yes, they are. Yeah. Houses, yes.
Can I make an insight check?
Yeah, if you want.
Sure. She just looks a little. I don't know if it's just because she's tired or what, but she looks a little. It's a 16.
She seems, not anxious, I guess depressed. It seems like there's something going on currently. Alongside like the exhaustion that she is facing from whatever she was doing before she got here.
Of course.
Alongside like her wife dealing with matters of state and being in a even more exhausted state. It occurs to you that when her children said that they were just kind of like
Having a rough
day, she kind of like agreed as if like the day mattered.
Okay.
Right? Can you make a perception check as well?
Sure. 7.
Yeah. They're sitting.
Okay. Are you at liberty to talk about what you were doing prior to us interrupting you, which we're very sorry for?
I suppose I don't know. Perhaps this is a forgiveness rather than permission matter. We were summoning a torrential storm.
For what
Oh.
purpose?
To keep the Leviathan away from the colony.
Oh.
Forgive my ignorance, but in what way does a rainstorm?
The storm is more in line with its natural environment.
Where it doesn't want to be.
Where it doesn't want to be, and where everything seems to be in equilibrium for it. Its purpose here is to put things in equilibrium. So when the storm is up, it feels that it doesn't need to address this location.
Oh.
And this task is
Exhausting, frankly.
I imagine, but what does it require of you?
Well,
Is it magic or a
it is
ritual?
a combination of magics between myself and Aunt. Fortunately, we found each other. You see, she's the caller of the storm, and I am the herald of the tempest. And together, we can create substantial weather-related effects.
Gotcha.
How long?
It serves to be our only protection here at the moment.
How long have you been at the task?
Well, since the Leviathan appeared. We spend 5 to 6 hours daily enchanting and summoning and using the majority of our energies to keep the storm going. It's no small task.
Gotcha. That's impressive.
It's fortune, mostly.
No less impressive.
Well, thank you.
And if you two are the only one who can keep the storm up, how much longer until?
Well, that remains to be seen, I suppose. I would venture to guess as long as the both of us remain alive, and with enough energy to conduct the ritual on a daily basis. Sometimes when our scouts indicate the beast is far away, we can drop the storm from time to time, allow ourselves a chance to recover.
So when we got back into town, the beast must have been close by.
Our greatest concern is that others of them will come this far south from Vol.
There are more?
Well, there's been at least one found off the northern coast of Vol. It interrupted recently a trade caravan that was doing business in Groundland Sun.
I think that was us.
Couldn't have been you.
No.
Okay, cool.
Um,
I'm bad at geography.
We sent 2 ships. It unfortunately sacked one of them. We lost the crew.
Right.
The other made it back. It was pleasant, I suppose.
Fortunate.
what were the ships? Just out of pure curiosity.
I don't know if I remember. It was the Blue Prerogative, and what was the second ship? Cairn's Will. Cairn's Will? Cairn's Will. See, funny thing, the ship that remained was spearheaded by a kobold by the name of Turble. A lovely, lovely name, Turble.
Impressive.
Interesting.
This, of course, is very hush-hush between
Of course.
noble retinues, diplomatic retinues, and whatnot.
Of course, of course. We can't live without our gossip, though.
That's
Sure.
Kobolds, I hear, are very
It seems
seafaring
relevant.
folk.
It seems relevant information for people representing other diplomats in this matter.
Of course.
To our knowledge, the second beast remains far to the northeast of Hull. But if it should decide to endeavor this far south, and we were to deal with 2, I don't know that Odd and I would have the energy to keep the storms up.
Of course. Do we know what race Valenina is? Does she look human?
She blue also.
She also
Vaguely
blue.
making a perception check.
I'll make
She
one.
already did.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Shiny.
Yeah, it's hard to see when it's shiny.
It's 17.
Perception, you said?
Yeah.
Then it's a 23.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, 22.
Sure. She looks vaguely elven. You get the idea that she's a half elf, probably. But you look at her arms and her legs where they peek out from the robes, and her skin looks more leathery than you'd expect. Almost thicker hide, as if she had the skin of some kind of, I don't know, you're
Walrus.
a druidy type person, so like a hippo kind of thickness to it. And then you can notice as she has where her I don't want to say bone spurs, but you can notice at her joints there are knobs that are sharper than just knobby knees, and that her ribs have protrusions coming out of her leathered skin. She doesn't strike you as anything that you've encountered before.
Okay. And this is Odd's wife. What's her name?
Valenina.
Valenina.
Wait, you are associates of Drokar, yes?
We know him.
Were you the ones that we sent with trade goods?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How were things in the town?
They were good.
Yeah. They're raising a couple of children now, so I assume things are well enough.
Children, you say. How were the children? They lead you into a study. And you, just making sure there's not a cross hatch. There look to be more comfortable chairs. The bookshelves are plain, but burdened with books. I mean, it's a very full study. And you see 2 half-elven girls sitting in the study, and Odd says, children, I require the study for a meeting with a representative of state. Could you please give us a few moments? And they, yes, of course, Mother. Of course we will give you a moment. And they get up and they leave. And they close the door behind them because they're respected children. And Odd sits across from you and she looks at you and she says, what can I do for you?
I feel as though it is appropriate to first apologize to you.
Oh? Have you done something that requires an apology?
I believe so. I believe that on our first meeting, I was quite rude to you quite publicly.
Well, rudeness and passion are often confused.
I would like to think that I was passionate, but I was also quite rude. It seems as though what I grew up with isn't entirely the truth here on the surface.
What do you mean by that? The truth?
Are you very familiar with Triton culture?
No, that's why we were given the office of diplomat.
Yes. So, I am the youngest in my family. And the way it sort of shakes down in noble families, elite, the society is run by 3 elders from the 3 noble families, at
Sure.
least in the area that I am from. The oldest is always somewhat of a militaristic leader, just to keep up our fight against the things that crawl out of the plane. So the oldest in the family is always tasked with keeping that part of the tradition alive in the families. The youngest is always tasked with keeping our religious affiliations tied. So, well,
She
I
gets
am
out
not-
like a journal. She starts taking notes.
I see you're taking notes, but I am adding to the recorded history in the Bards College. It's
Wonderful.
I wish for our people to know more and to be known. But the youngest are tasked with religious matters, really, which is why I was sent here, not only as a diplomat, but also to learn. It's
Roll an insight check.
I think that's a +6. Oh no, it locked on me. I got too far into the magic. I just want to make sure it's right. Insight?
Mm-hmm.
Can I add my inspiration always before?
After you make the die roll, but before you know the result. So you get to look at the d20 before you add it. Like if you rolled a 4 and you're like,
okay.
oh, I need it now.
Okay,
But after you know the result, it's over.
that's fine. It's a 24.
As you mentioned the term religion, she kind of gets uneasy. She shifts a bit.
Oh, I forgot about that. Well, I wouldn't know that. So I should mention that I'm not a particular believer. I'm not what you would call a paladin or a cleric. It's almost
Do these
Flo-
words have
flo-
meaning for you in your culture? Paladin and cleric.
not in any. No, I guess. I suppose there are. Is there really? Can you really have a banner to fight for when there's nothing to fight against?
It's my understanding that you have something to fight against. It's terrible sea monsters.
That's true. We have not seen monsters the likes of the thing that is currently rised out of the oceans in any existence that I have ever known.
The records indicated it's been over 1,000 years.
Yes. Which is why, to me, our religious affiliation is more folklore than it is any real belief.
This is probably an apt approach, or was until very recently.
Yes, it's quite a confusing time for me personally.
Sure. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Have you come to talk about Triton culture, or have you come with a task in mind?
I have come with a task in mind.
I am excited to learn all about your people at some other time.
Sure.
Perhaps we could
certainly.
move toward whatever request it is that you have.
Okay, yes, I would be happy to share with you much information at a different meeting, but you are correct. This is actually a time of some haste. I am sure you know that I have been affiliated with Skylark the Everfree.
Ah, this, yes. I'm quite familiar with that, yes.
Yes. The crimes that Skylark has been convicted of are not his doing. I actually brought with a bit of my own research, and she pulls the book out. However, I must ask, as this book has been entrusted to me by Dagmar, who I'm sure you are familiar with.
Yes, I'm very fond of Dagmar.
Yes. No harm must come to this book.
Why would I harm this book?
I don't know. It's sort of like a salt over the shoulder thing.
Is that what
I read
salt
about
o-
it in a book.
That must be a water thing? I don't... Okay.
It's not.
No harm. I
We're
assure you,
surrounded by
no
salt
harm.
water, so it really doesn't make sense to throw salt over one's shoulder, but I read about it as some sort of...
Yes, yes. I assure you no harm will come to this
Thank
book
you.
in my possession.
Thank you. Okay. Pulls the book out. Skylark the Everfree
Yes.
was once just a small boy who was lured into the forest and taken in by the Fae, specifically the Autumn Court, which is referenced here. It is known here as the Divided Court, which Fractured Court, which makes quite a lot of sense when I tell you that Skylark is fractured himself. He has what he calls a brother, but is really the division of the good and evil in the boy that was once Skylark. Do we know his name?
Like Skylark's name?
Yeah, before,
If you don't remember it, no.
dang it. Okay, that's fine.
If you don't have it written down, then no.
I can't keep a notebook together, so that's why I'm using D&D Beyond. So Skylark has been split. Skylark the Everfree is the good. He's the person that I've been with. The part that used to be the boy that is all things dark is called Trespasser. Thank you. I had a different word stuck in my head that wasn't right. It was threshold. And that's not the right word. Is known as Trespasser. I have seen the work of Trespasser. It is violent and terrifying, and I think capable of the murders that were done. Skylark is unable to lie. He does not want to hurt. In situations where it has seemed that we ourselves are in obvious danger, he has not wanted to hurt people. He's not a violent person. But he is the product of this division. I believe it is also well known as the DW theory.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
The negaduck theory.
Yes, the two ducks. Yes.
But in a
This is-
very literal sense.
But in a very literal sense, this is what's happened to the boy that is now Skylark and the trespasser.
I believe you.
I'm so glad to hear that. Now, here's our ask. If Skylark is not, I understand that he has been found guilty by the Primarch. So that in the eyes of the Imperium, he will always carry that weight. But is my understanding that here in Commonwealth, a unanimous vote from the council will allow him to continue to walk free. I would ask, knowing what you know now, that you vote to remove Skylark's penalty.
No.
They were fine.
Fabulous. One of them is a.
Oh, she's a wizard.
One of them is a skilled wizard.
Oh, yeah.
Wizard.
Yeah, she helped us out quite a bit.
She
actually.
did.
She created
Really?
a familiar.
Tell me, what was she like?
Ah.
My memory's fuzzy because I was so focused on the
She was the
coastline.
daughter of Ben? Ben Isben,
Of Isbin.
I think.
Isbin has a daughter.
I think. We weren't there for very long, and it was a while ago, so the memory's a little fuzzy.
Sure.
Um,
Isbin is a fine man.
Yeah, we were preoccupied.
And you
so
say his daughter is well.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
smart,
That's wonderful.
sharp.
Whip smart, man.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we were preoccupied dealing with some forest folk out there, and were they goblins?
Well, there were,
Oh, that matter was brought to our attention. Yeah.
yeah, just some goblins that had
I'm
raided
told that you handled it well.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
we did.
no casualties. We handled it as well as could be expected.
Wonderful.
No casualties, no damage to the town.
That's great.
I named it, but I know it doesn't have a name, but I named it.
What did you name?
I named it Sanctuary because it just seemed like a really
Oh,
nice
that's
place.
a pleasant name for the town.
Yeah. It just seemed like that kind of place.
That's wonderful.
How do you know them?
We have roll an insight check.
I don't trust my dice.
Yes, sir. Now it's coming alive.
Seems like a really high number.
It's a 17 now.
Sure. So it occurs to you that in order to get to this town, you had to secure a map.
Right.
Right.
This town that appears
Nowhere.
on exactly one map
Yeah.
that is owned by the Antel family.
Yeah.
So you could surmise
That's
that
the path
they
I
have,
was beaten down.
they have funded the town
Yeah.
in some way. Yeah.
Okay.
How do I know? We have some dealings with the town. We occasionally send surplus goods there.
Right. As we did.
And Drokar is your emissary for this task?
Drokar is, he's more on the ground and is more capable of securing those surplus goods than we can. We're quite busy and don't have time to put the packages together, as it were.
Interesting.
He's the shipping and handling.
Yeah, I told Drokar if he ever needs assistance with that, again, to not hesitate to reach out to me. Anytime.
Thank you for undertaking that endeavor. I told it drew your attention away from other matters that had a negative consequence in terms of your relations with some of the people.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
did.
That's okay.
Actually,
What?
we were late to another meeting point we were supposed to go to because of that. Are you familiar with a man named Bother? Gretchen.
His name could not be more apt.
That's good to know about how you feel about him.
Still, he holds quite a bit of sway in
That he does.
the Cold Forge as well as the surrounding colony. He's developed himself a reputation as a folk hero.
Mm.
He frees small colonies from the tyranny of monsters.
Sure.
apparently.
He beat us to a job that was given to us by the captain of the Emerald Blades.
It
And
happens.
he dealt with the situation out there regarding some gnolls rather gruesomely.
Well, yes, raiders are treated with less respect, and they are often put to death in visual ways to scare off other raiders.
Hmm. Does Bother have any other allies or associates that travel separate from him?
Separate from him?
Well, aside from the people who he went with,
I mean, he's quite wealthy. I'm sure he could
hire anybody.
fund travelers. What type of travel?
It's probably nothing. On our way to the island, we were followed for a brief time.
What do you mean followed?
Someone was pursuing us.
Who was
quietly.
pursuing you?
I
We don't know.
We never got close
What
enough
happened to them? Where did they go?
We shook their pursuit.
You shook their pursuit when? Before you reached the island?
Before
After you
reaching
reached
the island.
Are you sure?
They were not near us when we approached the island. We monitored them from a distance for a while, and we threw up a couple of visual barriers between us and them, and we lost
What
them.
types of barriers?
Magical fogs, darknesses.
Narrow barriers. Very small barriers? That could easily be circumvented by sailing to the right?
Yes, but they disappeared.
You're sure that they didn't see where you ended?
They
You're
disappeared
positive?
from sight about a day before we arrived. Was it a day?
I think it was a day.
Yeah. They
It's like
disappeared
half a
from
day.
sight. It was half a day? Okay.
Well, What did,
Anyway,
what did
we
they
s-
look like?
we stuck
what
around
kind of
the
boat was it?
island.
Were they flying colors? What?
They weren't. It was a small ship, and we couldn't see them.
They were too far out.
They were too far to see, even with our, enhanced eyes. We were unable to spot who was on the ship. We stayed at the island for an extra 4 or 5 days to monitor the situation, and nothing became of it.
This is
We were worried that because we were followed that someone might show up, but when no one showed up after the third or fourth day, we left. Sorry, not to add to your worries or anything. I didn't mean to.
it's good to know. This is pertinent news. We'll have to investigate the matter.
If you're willing, Iona is currently speaking to your wife, the councilwoman, about a serious issue that we need taken care of. I don't mean to imply that you are mandated and to help us in any way at all, but like Lotus said, the person is being charged with things he didn't do, and we're trying very hard to prove it.
I don't want to cut you off, but I feel that you should know it's inappropriate for you to ask me to persuade the will of a counselor.
No, and that's not at all what I'm saying. I don't mean to imply that I wish you to manipulate Commonwealth's government in any way, but if you could impress upon your wife how urgent it is that we need this considered, whatever her decision may be, the sooner we get Sky out of prison, the faster we can go about doing what we do. which is at the moment helping
Helping.
extra planers. It seems to be the focal point of our adventure. We didn't realize that was where we were going when we started it, mind you.
Sure.
But it's become the thing.
Become what we're doing.
Well, I can't really think of two individuals that would be better suited for the matter.
That's fair.
Anyway, if you could,
You might want to fix your glove, sir.
is my glove coming undone?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, the matter is
Actually-
knowledge commonly here in the sitting room at this point.
Yeah. I look down at the hand and just kind of like curl the fingers up underneath.
Oh,
And
wow.
be like, thank you. I will see to that.
She calls Gloria over, and she kind of whispers to Gloria, what languages do you guys speak?
Sylvan, Common, and Primordial.
Volcommon, Infernal.
Okay. She speaks in a language neither of you recognize, but Chris, it sounds vaguely familiar to you, but you're not sure from where. She leans in to Gloria, and she says something, and Gloria goes rushing off.
How does the language sound? Like, is it hard and harsh, or is it...
It's hard and harsh and a little scary.
Okay.
Does it trigger anything physically?
It causes your heart to race, but you're not sure if that's adrenaline or like some sort of
Reaction.
wooge.
Right.
Ouch.
Okay. Sure. Who did she speak to? Like, what did she say?
The servant.
Okay. In what way was it familiar?
Like, just strikes you as like you've heard the syllables somewhere before, but you're not sure where.
Okay.
Maybe in a town or a city, maybe in a dream even. You can't come up with, you can't place it.
Okay.
What adventures have you been on since?
Sorry.
It seems like she's like obviously making small talk. She's
Right.
Like, what adventures?
uh,
Trying to like you get the feeling that she's actively like drawing the attention away from your hand and trying to like let you
Sure.
have that like degree of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Actually, while we're talking, I'm going to start rotating my finger around the exposed area of the glove, and I'm going to start casting Mending.
Where did we just come back from?
The islands near Baton. No.
No, that was the last
That
thing we
was
did.
way long ago.
That was the first thing we
My
did.
brain.
You were just helping centaurs.
We were just
Right.
helping centaurs.
We.
Are you familiar with the centaurs?
Yes, a tribal culture.
Yes.
About 6 days.
Yes. We, along with a mutual friend of both ours and the centaurs, traveled to their
That's
island.
that gentleman who cooks. Yes.
Yes, Ray, two legs apparently, because he has
relative to centaurs. Yes.
right relative to centaurs. Their island was infested with Yanti, who were
Let's see.
snake people.
Snake people.
Snake people. I know I've never heard,
Like the Dragonborn, but
but snakes.
less obvious and more nefarious.
Oh. Did you help the centaurs deal with these
We did.
snake people? Yes.
We did.
You
Yeah,
eliminated.
as far as we know, there are no more Yanti left on the island.
What were they trying to do there?
They had invaded the centaurs' sacred lands near their waterfall of rebirth, because I named things. It's the idea in their culture that when the centaurs die, they are sent down a river and over a waterfall, and the waterfall assists in the rebirth and what's the word? Incarnation. The reincarnation of their people. So the spirits of the dead are then, able to come back in the new.
Through the water.
Yeah,
It's not altogether the most ridiculous superstition I've ever heard. That seems fitting in many ways.
Mm-hmm. But their sacred land had been invaded, and they couldn't go to fix it, so they asked Ray, and Ray asked us, and we did.
What were they? These
They sought to defile the land.
defile the land.
Mhm.
Interesting. And you dealt with all the threats in regard to.
All the Yanti are gone. We don't see any more on the island, actually. They,
It seemed oddly specific.
Well, there are centaurs on the island. We didn't
We
manage
don't-
to murder
I
any
wouldn't
centaurs.
expect the centaurs to be a threat to centaurs.
they're grumpy.
Are they?
Quite.
Well,
Tribal.
they did teach Ray. He's also quite grumpy.
Well, Ray's half centaur.
The front half,
The
I
upper
assume.
half, yes.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, no,
So-
we did eliminate the threat to their sacred lands.
No more threats
and
in the Centaur Island.
no,
Perfect.
Yep, none on the island.
You are very oddly specific. in the way that-
he's repetitive.
No more on the island. It leaves me to believe that there are threats off the island.
I mean,
Aren't there
you
always?
were performing a ritual 24 hours a day to keep a Leviathan at bay. So.
Well, that's true. It's valid.
That's our most recent adventure. He's very concerned about our friend, and that
Right.
causes him to be
Yes,
My mind is a
repetitive.
bit of a fog right now. We're
Right.
dealing with one of the first things we dealt with here, which is, again, Skylark's charge, which happened because we discovered a group within the town that was,
Were they?
were they the
being-
ones setting fires
They weren't setting. Were they setting fires?
and smuggling alchemical goods into the city?
They were doing that. They were definitely doing that.
We went to go confront them, only to find that someone had
Confronted them.
Oh. And now they're gone.
Yes, confronted to oblivion.
Do you know where the bodies are?
Where?
Where the bodies are?
No.
17 individuals were murdered. It seems as if quite a bit of information could happen if we could find the bodies, but never mind.
The
That's not. I apologize. I'm overreaching my boundaries now.
I presume they'd be consumed. The person who we know did it doesn't leave much behind when he does his work.
Terrifying.
Very.
Well, and about that time, you hear the door open. And Iota comes out. And she's kind of waving, like nodding you guys to. This guy.
Okay.
All right. Did Gloria ever come back?
No.
Oh.
So I'll nod to Melina. Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time. And regardless of the outcome, if you do need anything, feel free to contact us directly if Drokar's channels are
Clogged.
clogged.
Joker's
or
channels provide us with a bit of safety, but I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Sure.
May I ask why you say that?
Iona, you remind me of my own daughter. My youngest. She's very proud and independent and strong and optimistic to the point of obstinate. She is very bright, but she possesses the wisdom of her age. And unfortunately, that is a curse for her. Still, I love her for this. Do you know why I love her? Aside from she is my daughter, I love her all the more because her words, her voice, it does not bear the burden of hundreds. Not like yours and not like mine. Every choice I make and every word I speak bears consequences. With luck, you will learn this in your position as diplomat of the Triton beneath the sea. It is not lost on me that you are uncomfortable with the position of immaterials on the glass shores. In fact, my expectation would be that half of Commonwealth is uncomfortable with the position of immaterials on the glass shores, myself included. In fact, I support that notion. However, of that half, my expectation would be only half of those would speak up and defend them. And of that half of those would take up arms to defend them. So we find ourselves at a precipice, and I stand on a blade, the edge, not the flat, because large swaths of this population would see me removing charges from one Skylark Everfree, a newly declared immaterial, as siding with immaterial interests over the interests of Commonwealth. I work very hard to keep immaterials as safe as they can be here on the glass shores, at great expense and great cost of my own personal wealth and energies. All this before I spent half of my days keeping a sea monster at bay that no one has seen in 1,000 years. So no, I cannot have a public forum open to all who would see it and declare that Skylark the Everfree should be released from these charges. There are growing factions in Commonwealth. Growing factions that have the sway of much of the population because they engage in activities that defend that population. I made sure you were made available to become one of those factions. But alas, you were too slow.
Wait, what was that?
There are new folk heroes in town that have slayed gnolls, plaguing villages and towns across the landscape. It was no coincidence that you and your associates were provided first information about these tasks. It is no coincidence that you were sent to a town that appears on one map in all of Commonwealth that I have in my possession. It has cost me a great deal to build that town. It has cost me a great deal to supply that town. However, all of that town, all of Batten, and all of Commonwealth goes down in flames should rebellion rise up. If I were to side with an immaterial over the word of the Imperium, how long do you suppose it would take them to send an armada to us? Outmanned, outgunned, and already infiltrated with loyalists. What do you expect I can do? What would you do as a diplomat? As a representative of your people, as the voice of the depths, what is the right decision?
I do not believe that the right decision is bowing to old traditions.
I do not believe that those old traditions are valid, but I believe that those old traditions are enforced by a great deal of military prowess that we cannot compete with.
So, Let me pose it to you this way. If you put Skylark behind bars, you still have a murderer on your hands.
Make a persuasion check.
I swear to God, tell me his name one more time. I'm gonna write it down. I keep getting dumb.
Whose name?
Skylark's brother.
Oh, Trespasser.
Trespasser. I keep getting the Traveler stuck in my
Sure.
head. Okay, da-da-da-da-da. Done. You said a persuasion, right? Okay, so. Cool. That is a 23.
Sure. Yes.
You still?
We would have a murderer. We would have one violent criminal plaguing the landscape around our colony.
And in your colonies. There's something about Trespasser that's bound to Skylark.
How many loyalists to the Imperium do you suspect live in Commonwealth?
I don't know, I guess on half?
Sure, half of 700, 350 people are responsive in some way to the decree of the Imperium. Of that half, how many do you suppose are violent in some way?
I think all are prone to violence.
Sure. You have seen firsthand, from my understanding, the work of one Bother Graychin.
Yes, I have.
Were he given the opportunity, do you suppose he would hold off before inflicting severe harm upon anyone he deemed to be immaterial?
No, I don't think he would.
So what you recommend to me is to free a man, to eliminate a threat, only to create several more. Give me a solution. I know the problem. I am well aware. I live it daily. It is no coincidence that we are not at war with everything around us.
I understand.
Tell me a solution.
I cannot see Skylark sit behind bars for the rest of his life. He is a
He doesn't face the rest. He doesn't face
Please.
imprisonment for the rest of his life. He faces imprisonment for 17 years.
That's quite a lot of time.
It is a long time.
And
It is the best negotiation I could make.
while I appreciate what you have done so far, it still doesn't make him guilty. And while I appreciate the position that you're in, I truly do. I've seen the violence. I know something of ignorance, but I still cannot let him sit behind bars. I can't, and I won't. You also will have murder come from the trespasser. It will revolve around Skylark like a tornado. I don't understand it. I have researched trying to, and I hope that someday I will, but I don't yet. But more harm will come to those around Skylark.
It strikes me as beneficial then that we intend to send him to Vol.
To Vol?
Well, their prisons are far more secure than our own. It would be safer for him and everyone around him.
I don't know that that's true. The trespasser possesses powers that I don't understand. I don't know how powerful he is. I don't know the kind of chaos that he will create. Either way, they will continue to find evidence that points to the only known person, that is Skylark, who will clearly be in prison, and I imagine that that will come back to you as not having finished the job.
Why do you suppose we engage the services of an outside benefactor?
What?
Why do you suppose we engage the services of a specialist from the Imperium to put this matter to rest?
Do you think that this man will take the fall for what they find?
If it
your
turns
inaction?
out, if it turns out that the matter is not resolved, it's his responsibility, not ours. I will consider the things you have told me, and I will try to come up with some solution that does not imprison your friend. Perhaps the next time we meet, you can ruminate on the notions of leadership and responsibility to peoples rather than persons. If you'll excuse me, it has been a very long day. And I am sorry that I cannot be more concise or more definitive in regards to this matter. I will do my very best to come up with a better solution. But without you providing me one, it is up to my discretion.
It is your choice. It is your burden to know that a good, kind person will sit behind bars for the better part of their life.
A heavy burden it is.
A murderer will walk free. A rampant, violent individual will walk free. I believe that Skylark is the only one who can stop the trespasser. And you will have put him behind bars. I understand that your position is not an easy one. But I truly don't believe that this is the only option.
I hope that you're right.
I know that I am.
If you'll excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened to the bodies, but I suspect that they were eaten.
Eaten by 17 bodies were eaten.
Yes.
The wildlife here on the island is not substantial enough to devour 17 individuals. What would you recommend ate these bodies?
Well, a few redcaps could have done it. The way that their jaws unhinge can allow them to eat very large bites.
Red caps. You and your brother entertain red caps as guests.
Well, I have known a couple of redcaps, but they're difficult to get along with.
I should say so. They eat people, apparently, based off your suggestion.
Yes, and I'm always telling them to stop that, but they never listen.
Well, it has been an interesting conversation. I don't have a lot of help for you, assistance for you at the moment. It's nice to hear that they are in an unreachable magical place that we can't identify or verify in any way. But it all seems a bit convenient. Don't you think?
Convenient for whom?
Well,
certainly not convenient for me.
Well, it would be a convenient story to tell if you were trying to remove bodies in some way.
If I could bring them back, I would do so. If I could trade my own life for theirs, I would do it in a second.
So says many people afflicted with two minds, as it were.
I'm afflicted with two minds, but not in the way that you believe.
Skylark, I am not only a divinations expert, I've been studying divination magic for 167 years, yes. But the 14 years prior to that, I spent incarcerated. I also devoured people. Their bodies were found, of course, but I was not within my own mind, as it were. Since then, I have learned to control my affliction, as it were. Time in prison will do that. Perhaps incarceration may help you gain control over the things that afflict you.
I expect any incarceration will be very temporary.
What makes you say that?
I believe that my queen will see to my release.
Your queen. Who might that be?
She is named Leanne Shea of the Feywilds.
Of the Feywilds. Leanne Shea.
And I do not say this to flaunt your laws or your logic, but only as a well-meant warning for all those who would incarcerate me. You see, I'm cursed that death follows me everywhere I walk.
Interesting. If this is the case, perhaps we should incarcerate you in a more secure location. I initially had suspected that here in Commonwealth you could serve your sentence and still have some semblance of interaction with those you care about, but given this information, perhaps the prisons of Val are more adequate to hold off these endeavors.
I would prefer that you didn't.
I would prefer I didn't have to. But as it stands, here we are.
Well, I've answered your questions.
Indeed.
I've enjoyed this tea time with you. But I apologize, but you are in the wrong, sir. You are about to wrongly incarcerate an innocent man. And I will maintain that, and I will be free one day. And I will expect an apology from you on that day.
Well, if what you say is accurate, I don't know that I will live long enough. I'll have to take it up with Leanne and Shay.
I certainly hope that you don't.
Well,
But she can have a temper.
I don't expect it will be a terrible threat. But that's all I have for you. I had hoped that we could examine this further, but it appears as if you are just simply unwilling to take responsibility for your actions. We can have you treated. We can have people investigate the matter and see to your mental well-being. Perhaps put both minds back in one place.
Is that possible?
Well, I'm not a healer. But
That's an intriguing idea.
there are some that practice
I.
largely
You must
abandoned magic.
understand. The Fae cannot abide imprisonment. I must have my freedom. If you put me in a cell, I will wither away and die within weeks. I must be free. You can't cage me up. I'll do anything else. Whatever punishment you want to put upon me, just don't lock me away. Please. Please. I wept for each one of them. I still weep every night. He doesn't understand what he's doing. He lacks the empathy. You understand? He doesn't know. And it's not his fault. Just let me go. Just please. Please let me go.
Well, we will certainly consider your plea during sentencing. For now, you can remain here, or you can remain behind bars. The choice is yours. I'm afraid that you might consider either of them a prison. But sentencing occurs in 3 days. I will take this conversation into consideration, however, the weave indicates what the weave indicates. And he gets up and he slowly steps out of the room.
I forgive you.
What's that?
I said I forgive you for this wrong you are committing against me.
Interesting. And he walks out the door. Ornath brings you some food.
Oh,
He
thank
looks
you.
at you with sympathy. That he's bound to his duty.
The least I can do in gratitude for this food is to sing you a song, if you'd like.
Skylark, I am very familiar with your abilities, young man. I'm afraid that
I had to try.
the cat's out of the bag, as it were. Would you like to remain here, or would you like to go in irons?
Oh, I detest iron.
Well,
So I shall remain here.